and welcome to our stream. We have a really cool one today where we have a whole bunch of molecules that are here to show you all these like cool bits of gameplay from a bunch of the levels that we've been showing at events. You've probably seen them, but we're going to show you how the inner workings of them were created. So I'm here with Tom, who's going to be on the stream, taking your questions, because we're going to have a chance to do some Q&A at the very end. And I'm also here with Emei.
Hello.
So Emei is an intern in the art department here at and she's like been making things in Dreams for a month now?
Yeah, a month and like 2 weeks or something.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
So just 2 weeks, and we're putting you on the stream to show... Like,
no, a month and 2 weeks.
Okay,
Yeah,
a month and 2 weeks.
like,
Okay, I could have sworn you've been here longer.
Yeah.
So anyway, we thought that we would start with some of the cool stuff she's done. She's been working on a bunch of characters and starting her very first game in Dreams.
Yeah.
So it'd be cool if you want to start playing through and just show us a little bit of what you've been working on.
Yeah, so I'll start with hello. Is it...
Oh.
I'm just gonna get my controllers on. I think they're on.
Yeah.
They should be. But they can't.
Oh, maybe
read
the lights
them.
because of the tracking.
Yes. Okay, I'll use.
All right, we are to the DS tour.
Okay, there we go. So yeah, I've been working on a little game called Reflection, and it's a game where you flex, and it's basically Simon Says but with flexing. And I made this game so I could show off my bipeds that I'll be talking about later. So first, in the game, you see a sequence. And then you have to repeat it with your own character. So it's ready, set, flex! And then it holds it, yeah. So, woo, yeah. And I'm gonna add some sound effects afterwards, and some like cool intro screens. And yay!
I love your crowd. Your crowd is so
yeah,
good.
it's really beautiful. You have a background in graphic design, right? Or graphic novels.
Yeah, comics and illustration, basically.
Really
so I'm
cool.
very, very 2D. So this is the first time I'm doing 3D, and it's very new, but super fun.
How long have you been working on this?
Like 2 weeks, maybe. Like I heard about the stream, and I was like, I'm gonna make a game for it, and then like I didn't manage to finish it, but it will be done at one point, and then maybe we'll release it to the world.
Cool.
Yeah, so basically what I wanted to focus on was the bipeds that I've been making. Oh, can I load any of them?
Oh, that is strange.
And it's missing some things. Yeah, so what I wanted to talk about was how I, as like a beginner in Dreams and like somebody with 2D background, go from like sketch and concept to a finished 3D biped.
Right.
And I've prepared like these 3 different bipeds that I made. One was for PAX that John and Ed used
so
the PAX, the astronaut.
If you watched our PAX stream, the pilot that we showed was courtesy of Emei.
Yeah, so this hairy and muscly man was the first biped I ever made in Dreams.
So cool.
I'll just go to edit mode so it doesn't look around all the time. And I'll stamp them in the succession I made them. So I made 3 bipeds here at This is the second biped I made.
Oh, fish boy.
The fish boy. Let's see. And then I just need to turn him around. Oh, wow. Yeah. There.
Oh, look at him. He's so
There
cute.
he is. This is the second one. And then there is a third one, which is the astronaut. So then I'll take you guys through the way I made them. So there we go. So yeah. So these were like made in like the second week I was here, maybe the 4th week, and then like 2 weeks ago or something like that, if that timeline makes any sense whatsoever. And yeah, so how I start, of course, as a 2D artist is sketching on paper by hand. And so if we pop up the sketches from the Burly Man, and can we make many at the same time?
We have a couple of your concept drawings.
Yeah. So, like, for the Burly Man, it started with that, like, very rough sketch that I did in my sketchbook a while ago. And then for the Fish Boy, it was also like this kind of watercolory sketch that I wanted to translate. And then for the astronaut, it was like a quick concept on the computer that I made the same morning that I made this character. And basically what I did was that I wanted to kind of translate some of that 2D feel into 3D. So I looked at these sketches and decided, like, for the muscly man, I wanted to get that sketchy feel on the pants down, and like the beard to also feel kind of sketchy in a way.
So you use the stroke tool to create the textures on them.
Exactly.
That looks really
exactly.
nice.
It's surface snapped, and then I just like paint on top of it. And then go in and adjust whatever is sticking out the wrong way. And so are these like scales on the fish. Is also just strokes as well, like stamped in.
I really like the detail on the shirt.
Yeah, like very 2D. Yeah,
it's a really clever way of doing that.
So kind of getting some comic book feel in there. But yeah, from the sketch, I just kind of tried to figure out what the primitive shapes are when you use like the sculpting tool. And like these are the ones we can use that you guys have seen on other streams. And so basically I was like, okay, the belly is a sphere, the head is a sphere, a lot of spheres, some like cylinders, and like the hands of this muscly man are all a bunch of cubes, like, and just kind of building the shape of the hand with that. And then in all like the Kareem streams, it's all about cutting away afterwards and using soft blend and hard blend,
Yeah,
and just
definitely.
like making all of that. But like when I was sculpting here, I did it all in this neutral gray tone, like kind of similar to my 2D workflow. I did all
You inked it later.
Yes, and I colored it all afterwards. So I would like start with sculpting like that, and then I would go in and color it afterwards to get all the extra details, because some of these sculpts, when they're just gray, look kind of boring. Like it's not so many details, but you can do like surprisingly much with just color. Just like the little tiny like highlights on the head and the belly, and then some on the back, and like making all these little extra details that really make your characters come to life.
Thank you for making the fish boy decent for the stream.
Yeah. Usually as like an animal, he doesn't wear any pants, of course. But yeah, so like sculpting it all out, then going in and painting it. And also what I found was super useful, especially here, was like separating the sculpt, so I could make the helmet metal, but then make the gloves latex. So like separating it out and then pulling it, grouping it back in, so I can get like extra details in there that I found, that I learned was like super useful. And
It's really cool. And then I love how you use strokes differently on all the characters. So you get like the hair effect with him. You get like the dots on sort of the fish boys. You get his scales, and then on the pilot, actually using it to do the antenna is a really clever. I love, like, how do you make that sort of move and
so
look really cool?
basically these, like, even when I'm pausing it, it's still moving. So what I've done here is that I've gone in and tweaked the stroke and just made it physical. So this is just like one straight stroke with a dot of like glowing light, because things that glow are awesome.
Glow makes everything look good in dreams.
And then I just added like, the default is like 50% floppiness, but then it looks more like seaweed. So I pulled that down to make it like more rigid. And the wind strength is also like it's 0 in the beginning, but to just give it a little bit of wind, and then it'll just have that nice little effect on it. So just adding those details. And actually a lot here in the that are moving and blinking are also, much of this is strokes that also are glowing. Some of it are sculpts that I've made glow afterwards. And for example, for the scales of this little fish boy, it's just, if I zoom in all the way there, no, I need to go further in. There we go. Yes. So here, they're made, let's see, where is the thing? Yeah, so I added a lot of finish and made them really shiny, and then very metally, and then I turned down the alpha channel on it, so they're kind of see-through, which is the same what I did with the kind of webbing in the hands here. So it's also just like stamped in flex that I've turned down the alpha channel.
Really
on.
cool. Have you done much like 3D, like sculpting or like using 3D modeling
Never.
before?
I've never
Wow.
touched ZBrush. I've never touched Maya. I've only done like 2D traditional Photoshop a little bit. But yeah, and like so, all of this has been really fun and really easy. And when you have a finished character like this, it's really simple to just change it up, like tint it, and then you get a completely different feel on the character.
Oh
So,
yeah.
For example, I made like a different. So now it's.
You're already thinking like a game designer, just make it a different color. And then
Yeah, this is like the evil version of our muscly man or something, because obviously he's wearing red. That can only mean one thing. So
And you use the
there.
strokes in just like a bit of a different manner to give him like a nice
exactly.
different look.
So apart from like making strokes physical, you can just paint straight on top with surface snap. So I just changed up his shirt a little bit and like tinted his beard differently. And the same with this little fish. Whoa, that looks weird. There's a dark version of Fish Boy right here that has like really creepy eyes actually. That I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
ooh, that's kind of freaky. But it's like staring
Just
into
staring at each other.
Yeah,
Nice.
dark fish. Maybe he's like fluorescent. That would actually be really cool. Maybe
Oh,
I should
yeah.
try and do
Maybe
that
we should just do that.
And then there's like a green version of the astronaut.
That's really cool.
So all of these will be put into that Simon Says Flex game afterwards. And like, so for example, if I wanted to just change the fish, I could just go in like this and then choose a color.
What color are we choosing? I think should we ask the stream?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what color do they want?
What colour do you think the fish should be, people? Or the fish boy? People are calling him fish boy.
Yeah, Fish
Oh.
Boy. That is
DIY.
his name, actually.
That is actually the
Yeah.
name,
Yeah.
so that is
Very
really good.
straightforward.
Let's have a look.
Okay.
Purple, yellow, pink, orange,
So just everything. I mean,
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
like
Let's,
all of
let's
it.
start with
Black.
purple.
rainbow.
So yeah. Oh, now. Oh, look at those eyes. That's crazy. Okay, so some things really change a lot. Others stay kind of the same, but you just need to tint it, and then you go in. Like I'll have to go in and fix some details afterwards. But it's very easy to just like change it up and make like a huge cast for a multiplayer game, for
Yeah.
example. So maybe there will be like a Fish Boy Adventures with 4 different colored fish boys, and they can shoot
There
each
has to
other.
be now.
Yeah, there must be. And I guess that there's like a little fun thing that you can do with the fish boys.
Oh, I love the walk.
Little,
And again, like used strokes to make the sort of like special effect
Yeah.
for the. That's very cool.
and
I
there's
love that.
like little sound effects hooked up to it, and he can also like puke water.
Well, naturally. I
There's
mean,
like-
why
Yeah,
wouldn't he?
why wouldn't a fish be able to puke water? Yeah, so you can do like, I've done a bunch of like very simple keyframe animation on it that makes it very like,
Oh, I love that
fun
one.
to. So these are our Fish Boys flexes. So you'll see that in the game afterwards.
All
Yeah.
right, cool. Well, let's go back to the game, and we'll just again. So it's like now you can see all of this in action, and then we're gonna bring on our next guest.
Yeah, so
But he's been doing like all sorts of like cool new stuff. How he did it.
Moves here.
Cool.
Excuse me, I'll just move those.
Yep. Just,
Hi, everybody.
hi, Tom.
Hi.
Cool. So if you just want to
Thank
take
you.
us through, I think probably just give us a little bit of a playthrough first for people who haven't
Okay.
seen this.
So, yeah, this is Ferrobium. This is my new game. Some of you may have seen it from such game shows as PAX West. And that's about it.
And PAX West,
And
yeah,
PAX
it's
West,
debut.
yes. Although this version is new, updated, well, newish. It's had a few updates.
What did you add?
Well, there's a little warp-in thing at the beginning, a little warp-in effect, and there's a new like enemy boss. I'll just show you.
Yeah, you should just show us.
Yeah.
There we go. There's a warp. Whee! So let's just have a little fly down the old enemy dreadnought.
What was the inspiration for doing a game like this?
So I was like chatting with my friend Tim about dreams and old games that we liked and stuff like that, and this old Commodore 64 and Amiga game came up in the conversation. It's called Iridium. Some of you might remember it.
Many of you know.
Many of you not. Many of you, it's too old. So I thought it would be a good thing to try and create something like that. So kind of like Iridium's the inspiration, and I suppose Tim is the original inspiration. So if you're watching, Tim, good work. Thank you.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Bit of boost there. Oh,
you boosted
instant
yourself
death.
right into instant death.
Dear, yeah.
That will
Let's see if I
happen.
can destroy one of these things. There we go. There's a piece that's going down.
Success.
Bye. And yep. Bit more. Just a little bit more.
Yeah,
just,
I mean,
just a couple more seconds.
Might as well just take out as much as you can.
Yeah. Oh, there's a beamer. A beamer.
It ends me.
Got to watch out for those big boys.
It's really cool. How long did this take you?
It's really hard to say because I only do this at home, like in the evenings. So it'd be like a couple of hours here, a couple of hours there, and then I tend to spend like hours and hours just like tweaking things just to make it
Perfectionist.
just what I want it to do. So like to get the like all the logic and stuff, it's pretty quick. But then I just spend forever like mucking around with it.
How many times when you play Dr. Rendezvous do you do it on the first try?
I do it every time.
Every time? Really?
Time.
Every time?
Not every time.
So hard.
Most times.
Cool. So what were you going to show us? Like how you like how did you do it?
Okay. So if we jump into edit mode, I think I'm going to break it down and let's have a look at the whole dreadnought. And here it is. It's just one piece there. But if you tunnel into it, there we go. You can see each like section is its own separate thing, and they're pretty much identical apart from like the shape. So they're kind of interchangeable. I mean,
Right.
I could probably make like an endless shooter by just emitting different pieces out randomly.
And did you sculpt this from scratch?
Yes, this is all from scratch. If we dig in and we'll talk about the models and stuff first. So each piece is kind of like, if we kind of ignore these like enemy bits, because they're like separate things altogether, the actual like superstructure of the dreadnought or the dreadnought pieces are just like two different models. There's this one, which is just kind of like, if I put it down here, you can see it a bit better maybe.
Cylinders.
It's just like cylinders.
Yeah.
It's just one little simple like model. That's basically it. And then the other piece is this slightly more complex piece. There we go. And that's just a couple of models stuck together, grouped together. So there's one. If we let's tunnel in.
Let's go further.
Tunnel in. Go in. Zoom. So there we go. We've got two pieces.
Oh, nice.
One's the there we go. A bit of light on it. Isn't that lovely? One's just a simple sculpt. lots of primitives there, just kind of mashed together into a vague rectangular oblong type thing.
Yeah.
And then these guys are just more cylinders with some special effects on. So if I have a look
See,
at
glow
the,
does make everything better.
It does. It makes everything better. So if we like have a look at these tweak menu for this particular sculpture, you can see we've got a node here which is controlling the glow. And if we come here, ooh, is that the right one? Oh yeah, we've got an inner glow. There's that wire there. And then we've got a little flow control. So when you press play, you can see it flowing. Which is a little demo. There you go. Wow, really fast.
So much flow.
So much flow. So that's how that particular chunk is put together. And if I close you, and oh my goodness, it's all out of the way. I'm going to ignore those. So the actual glowing and stuff is all connected to this node here. Oh, that's all right. There we go. So this is just connected to every single piece.
Wow.
Right there. So that means that with one wire in here, we can control all of those pieces at the same time.
Oh, cool.
So it just makes it easier.
Sort of simpler to do things that affect it as a mass.
Yeah, exactly. So I hear you ask, what?
You have a lot of other wires, Tom.
I have a lot of other wires. What else is going on? Well, we open up this microchip. So each of these pieces has pretty much the same microchip in it. And they all do the same things, basically.
So do you design one microchip and then clone it out, or are you just building each one sort of bespoke for the different segments?
Yes. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I clone, sometimes I make
Cool.
new ones. It kind of like depends what I want it to do, or if I'm like mucking around or trying new things.
Cool. Can you explain this one to us?
Yes, I can. Right, so this is all like controlling what happens to that piece once you've killed everything. So the first thing you need to know is like, how do I know everything has been killed? So we have got these.
I ask that all the
trigger
time
zones
before I
here.
leave my house
Yeah.
in the morning. How do I know it's not a zombie apocalypse?
Exactly. How do you know? What you need to use is trigger zones. Like next time you leave your house, get some trigger zones on the go. Okay. So yeah, to start this trigger zone here, this trigger zone is looking for tags with the name laser dead, and it's looking for 3 of them. And what happens is that when you kill these guys here, these laser towers, they turn on a tag, the laser dead tag, and then so this trigger zone, he recognizes that and goes, oh yeah, okay, but it won't like turn on until it gets 3 of them.
Right.
So you know that it's dead because all 3 of those things have gone into like a dead state.
Right.
So then when that happens, then this one turns on, which then turns on this rotator, which causes the thing to like slowly rotate. And then we've got a little mover here, which causes it to drop down. It's got quite a strong like power to it, but it's also not very strong.
Yeah.
It's got a fast movement, but it's not very powerful, so it ramps up gently.
Okay.
So that kind of means it like drops down slowly to start with, and then kind of goes a bit faster.
Falls away as it gets further away.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep, just so. And then we've got a little timer here, which is directly connected to this node here. Oh, I have to get in, which controls the electric arcs, which are a separate thing again, which is actually a remix of one of John Beach's.
He does do some really good
Does
special
some
effects.
amazing stuff. I won't dig into it now because it's a bit mind-blowing. It's like looking into the mind of a genius. You can't stare too much. It's, yeah.
Blind.
Yeah. So that's kind of like how it dies. And then we've got a damage one, which is very similar in that when you shoot these guys, but they're not dead, they like flick on and off a little "I've been damaged" tag, and this one's listening for that in the same space as it's pretty much identical, just looking for a different tag. And then when it gets flickers of those, it kind of just like turns off the glowing pipes. So what that means is that when you're shooting a enemy turret, the whole like the glowing pipes of the whole piece will kind of like flicker.
Yeah.
And the final one is like a special one, which is looking for the ship, which is the ship
Right.
that you're playing, and that has controls for like a little directional arrow. So in your ship, there's a couple of little arrows that are following you around, pointing in different directions. There's like a red one, which points to the nearest enemy. Then there's a white one, which this controls, which is actually pointing at these huge tags down here. So the idea is that when you go out of range, those the little arrow turns on, and it tells you which direction
you back
to
home.
fly
Yeah.
back home. So you can go miles away, and you're like, oh, where am I?
I'm
Oh,
shifted that
it's that
way.
way. It's that
Cool.
way. Okay, I'll go that way.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, it's really helpful to me, especially because like I don't dabble in the logic tools a lot. Like when you present it like that, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. In order to make this do this, you have to do this, and like, and when you break apart all of those steps, it becomes like a much more manageable thing.
Yeah, totally. If you could break it down into small chunks, everything's like, oh, it's quite simple. Also, the final bit is like when everything's dead, or being damaged. They all, like, there's like one wire from each piece goes into this AND gate.
Right, so this is just stringing all of your different dreadnought pieces together.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is like more of a total, like the whole dreadnought is dead, basically.
Right.
And all that does is like ANDs together and then goes into these nodes here, which are then used by the kind of like the game logic higher up in the scene. So we've got one, all the baddies are dead, and one is like, oh yeah, the ship is detected somewhere within like the dreadnought.
Right. So that's sort of your like, the ship's detected, let's start firing at it, and all the baddies are dead, you win.
Yeah, basically. Cool. Yeah, that's essentially it.
Awesome. Well, now that you've shown us that, it would be really cool to see it back in action, so you can sort of see those little pieces that you talked about and think about how it was made.
I'm just going to exit and come back in because I've made a few changes there, and I'll probably break everything.
Mess up your game,
we
maybe.
just play it again. Okay, so here we go. Pop. Okay, so there you can see the arrows, and you see the little white one. And when you go near, it's like, oh, ship's detected. I'll turn that off. When you go away, it's like, oh, ship's not detective. I'm gonna detectived. I'm gonna point at the nearest like dreadnought tag.
Yeah.
And then the red one is obviously nearest enemy. I say obviously, maybe it's not obvious.
And I love too that your the moon in the background sort of pulses in time with your music.
Oh yeah, that's quite subtle. Oh,
yeah, and you have a whole intro, which like I've noticed lots more people are building for their levels, which is cool. Like little warp in, warp out.
Like menu screens and stuff.
Yeah, it's really enjoyable to see people like adding those kinds of touches to their games.
Yeah, so there's mines as well. The little homing dudes. Oh, I didn't tell you about that.
That's fine. We don't have to playing, so.
Yeah, I really am not good.
Oh, there we go. Got a little purple dude following us. You can see we've got a purple arrow which points at the nearest mine, which got me.
That's so cool.
So I just can't help but play it and
you've
get
definitely
killed.
had a space theme with all of your stuff too. You know, you've gone like various levels of complexity into space.
I might be a bit obsessed. I'm not sure yet.
Cool. And now that you've destroyed that one, there's the electrical arcs that you were talking about.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Off into
show that there. That's John Beach's magic arcs in action. Thanks, John.
Yeah. He's amazing. He can make his brain in dreams. I want that in a band. It'd be very intense.
Wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm really just trying to like win now.
All right. You know what? You can't leave until you beat it for us.
Go get that one. How are we doing for life? Oh, we've got a life left. That should be alright.
Yep.
You got this.
Just have to be quite evading.
You're the creator, so it's extra embarrassing if you die.
Yes.
Oh.
Oh my god. I'm nervous for you.
Yeah.
Beam.
Beam up. Mine. Cheese it. Use the boost.
You just leg it in. I'm out of it.
Will it stop following you at a certain distance?
They kind of count down and then explode on their own, so it's like a time limit. They'll always try and follow you, but if you can evade, they're just like, oh, I couldn't get him, hop up. Oh, and you can also slingshot them into the enemies if you're like super cunning.
Show us how it's done.
Oh, hey, too late,
Nice.
too late.
Congratulations. You beat your own game.
Yes, who'd have thunk it?
Well done, sir.
Very nice.
Cool. And
Cool.
there we go. One click back to the menu.
All
Play
right.
again. Abby.
Okay, yeah. So next up, next. Hi, Liam.
Hello.
Everyone, this is Liam.
Hiya.
So
I waved for you as well.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm also Liam.
So if you want to like just give us a little introduction to Given Time and maybe play through a little bit, that would be awesome
sure.
for people who haven't seen it.
Yep. So Given Time, as Abby said, is a text adventure, sort of in the spirit of things like the sort of stuff you see made with Twine, that sort of thing, spirit of Zork. So I'll just jump right in. Given Time is a game where you're at a party, a house party, that you don't particularly want to be at. So it's basically a puzzle game. You have to explore the party, and as you explore the house, you find that somewhere in the loft, one of the people who lives here has summoned some otherworldly horror that sends you back in time. So you keep having to relive this party until you can beat the monster in the loft, basically. So that's the general idea. So I did this all basically using the text gadgets in Dreams. So you basically, on each screen, get a bunch of options of what you can do. So you're standing outside and you press X to go in.
We had someone at PAX that actually sat down and beat the whole thing.
Yeah, shout out to that person right at the end
the-
of the show.
That
Because this is actually a pretty significant chunk of time that it takes to
Yeah,
go through.
I'd say it takes, I think people average about 45 minutes in the studio when they were playing it. Yeah, there's quite a lot here. There's about 12 rooms in the house to explore and a bunch of different things to do. Basically on each screen you get a bunch of text, some options of what you can do. There's like an inventory and a status, so you pick things up as you go along, you learn things, you get covered in things, so that's status. So for example, here we can go from the hallway to the kitchen by pressing X. As you go through, you'll sort of see that you squeeze uncomfortably between tightly packed clusters of people, and so on. So basically it's a nightmare house party packed with people where everyone
Not
is...
based on real experience.
No, I've never been to one of these things ever. I wouldn't, of course. And the nice thing about Dreams as well is that everything's quite interlinked. So in the same level that has text, you can quite happily use all of the other things like sculpting and music and the lighting system. So for example, in the living room, when you go in, that's sort of been set up as a sort of the center of where everyone's just partying and dancing. So when you go in, I sort of used the sky system to change color over time to give you the impression that there's like a party going on in this room.
It's a really cool effect.
So in the living room, for example, as we go across the living room to a guy named Nick, for example, it's like your friend. As you go across, basically someone stumbles while they're holding a drink and you get covered in beer. So when you go on to Nick, you'll see the status changes and now you're covered in beer.
Beer soaked.
Yeah. So that's the general gist, anyway. And then the game really starts, as I say, when you get to the loft. Because when you get to the loft, you encounter... So if we go up the stairs from the hallway... you step in a pile of vomit. I'm going to skip past these, but the stream's recorded, so feel free to watch it back and pause to read the things if you like. The general gist is you go upstairs, you go across the landing to this hatch, and as you go up to the loft, you encounter this thing in the loft.
And it's good to note the sort of music change. Like it gets, like your music dulls as you go into other rooms.
Yeah, as you get further from
really
the centre,
cool.
the music gets quieter, and you go into the loft and it changes entirely into something slightly terrifying because there's this ominous thing that attacks you.
Run, scream, or fight.
This bit of a house party, your screen starts glitching out and everything goes bad and you get sent back to the start of the party.
This is also based on real experiences.
Yeah, of course, this is how every party I've gone to has ended.
Demonic force.
And so then the game sort of resets and you rewind time. And on this loop, you now get different options because you know certain things. So for example, if we go to the living room now, so we go through from here to the kitchen, we go through into the living room. Now when we try and go to our friend Nick, you'll see because we know someone's going to spill beer on us, we actually get this quick time event that lets us dodge the beer because we know it's coming.
We're
so we
now
have
from
to
the
dodge,
future.
and you press the button, and now you sidestep it, and now you can talk to Nick without being covered in beer. So it's sort of standard time
Which
travel
really
puzzles.
bothers him.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really does. It's your classic time travel puzzles, but sort of used as an adventure game.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, how?
Indeed. So when we hit edit mode, you'll see it's quite different to other levels you've seen edit mode of, because this one is entirely logic, pretty much.
Yeah.
So I've set this up in such a way that when I was writing it, it would be readable for me, but it's...
Who would have guessed you're a programmer?
Yeah, exactly. Everything's nicely named, everything's neatly laid out. So basically what I've done is I've got this main
Coder
microchip.
art.
Yeah, exactly. You've got this main microchip called Story, which is basically all of the text in the game and the flow between it. And I've basically set up a microchip per room in the house. So you can see I've got you've got one for outside, you've got one for the living room, one for the kitchen, one for the hallway. And then these wires basically show you the transitions between the areas. So if I open up the hallway, for example, you can see that what I get in the hallway is I've got these 5 text gadgets here. First one is the heading of the screen.
Yep.
Second one is the block of text in the middle of the screen. And then you've got the 3 options.
Cool.
And then from each of those options, I specified what button it will be that you press to choose that option. And it has a little output you can press. And then when you press that output, it will just send a signal to the next area. So you can see if we trace this blue wire here, it goes down here and into the kitchen.
Amazing. So if someone wasn't a if someone like didn't spend a lot of time in the logic tools but wanted to make a text adventure, would they be able to like sort of take what you've done as a template and then build their own out of it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a case of taking exactly any of these bits of logic and just replacing the text more or less. So you could write an entirely different game. You could extend this game to have more sections and more puzzles or anything along those lines. Really.
What is your character count in this game, Liam?
So I think I initially wrote this up on my laptop basically, in a little notepad document. I think it came to about 6,000 words or so. And that was actually, to be honest, the bulk of the time. Like, regardless of what tool I would be using, that would be the majority of the time. But in Dreams, it was really easy to get that into the game.
Yeah, how much was the rest of the
So I think transferring it from the version I'd written to just onto the PS4 took me a few hours, basically one evening. Because you can plug a keyboard straight into your PS4 and you can just type it straight in. And then just, wiring up the transitions between each one.
It's really cool.
So one of the things I wanted to show was, because it's a time travel game, you have to reset a bunch of the state every time you get sent back in time. You have to make sure that all the things that happened have not happened, but also as a character you know more things, so you need to remember some things. So I've set that up over here, and that's what all these wires are. They're just basically changing bits of state. So I've got 2 microchips here, one which is called permanent state, and that is the stuff that you as a character remember through rewinding time. So this is the stuff you've learned, the stuff you know. So, for example, if we open this up, you can see we've got these are counters. Those of you that have used LBP will know that counters are quite good for just remembering whether or not something has happened. So if you set a counter that goes from 0 to 1, if it's 0, a thing hasn't happened. If it's 1, the thing has happened.
Cool.
So I've got a bunch of those, and that's pretty much all of the state of the game. So, for example, once you get the drink spilled on you, this sets to 1, and then on future loops, you know that the drink's going to be spilled, so you get that quick time event that lets you dodge it. And someone tells you the location of a lighter in the game, like whether or not you know that, etc. So these are all just things you learn, and then I plug them into these things we've got called wireless transmitters. So in order to avoid having to have too many wires looping background from here all the way back to my game, we've got these things called wireless receivers and transmitters. And what that means is if I plug a signal into a transmitter, any receiver that is looking for that name will get that value. So all I have to do here is plug the output of whether you know the drink will be spilled into this transmitter. And then anywhere in my logic, I can just put a receiver and tell it to look for this, and I can check whether or not we know the drink will be spilled, which lets me change up what bits of text I show you, what bit of things you do.
And lets you create a very neat, very organized...
Makes things neater, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that was that one. And then there's the per loop states. This is the stuff that every time you rewind time has to reset.
Right.
So this includes things like whether you've picked up the salts, for example. So when you get sent back in time, you lose your inventory, so you lose your salts. Whether you're covered in beer, when you get sent back in time, your clothes are miraculously dry again, which is kind of nice. And again, using the same trick of just wiring to transmitters to avoid wires. And then I've done, you can see the other end of that trick here. So this is the wireless receiver. So you can see here I've got this set up to look for the word rewind time, and when that happens, a signal comes out of here and it just resets all of these counters here. So basically all of the states, everything that has happened in the party gets reset.
That's so cool. I love that. And like I said, this is the first time that we'd seen something sort of made like this in Dreams. It was really neat to see somebody do like an entirely different application with tools.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing I really started with here was we had the text gadget, and it lets you, trigger other bits of text once it finishes. And I was just playing about with that, and I sort of realized that I was eventually slowly making a story. And I was like, well, I might as well try and make it into a full game. So I started adding puzzles, and it sort of grew quite organically out of that.
Yeah. That's awesome. If you want to go back in and just like play a little bit, just
sure, we can
to,
play a bit
now
more.
that we're thinking about how it actually all
totally.
works.
So when you start off, you've got that fresh set of state. Nothing has been set. And you can see then when we go from outside to inside, the music gets louder. So I've got some logic which, depending on where you are in the house, as Ivy said, just not only makes it quieter, but filters it a bit, so it sounds a bit more muffled, like you're outside. So if we go through the kitchen to the garden, for example, so we get to the kitchen first, and then we squeeze through people. And then we go from here out into the garden. You can see that the music muffles because now we're outside. You know, there's a brick wall in between us and the music. And for example, one of the most complicated bits of logic that I've got is in the garden on the patio is a girl named Mia. And you can talk to her, and the first time you talk to her, you'll learn her name. So you introduce yourself, and you have this really awkward conversation where it sort of ends in silence, and it's just a bit weird, so you leave really awkwardly. Because parties, right? Anyway, so you know Mia's name this time, and so next time you can just introduce yourself and tell her, hey, Mia, I know you. And she doesn't really know how you know her. And you can try and explain that you're being sent back in time, and she won't believe you.
Yeah,
so
I don't know why.
Yeah, surprisingly. And so she does this whole, it's that Bill and Ted thing of what number am I thinking of then? And the first time she does this, you lose because you don't know the number she's thinking of. But she tells you what number she was thinking of, and then the next time round, you know the number. So it's those classic time travel puzzles, and then she tells you more stuff to help you out. Yeah.
That's so cool. All right. Well, Liam, thanks. This was really cool. This is one of the. I was super excited to see how it worked because, like, I feel like that's something like doing a text adventure is actually something I think would be really fun to make.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
You've inspired me to think about new games I can do.
Yep, totally.
And if you don't know, like, Liam runs a bunch of like game jams and stuff in the studio, so he's like constantly making cool stuff. So yeah, thanks for showing us.
No worries.
I think next up we have Kristoff
Yes.
and Steve, who I think if you are familiar with the LBP community, you've probably heard their names before. So they're going to show us Hammer Time and Moon Raiders, which I'm sorry, just like totally blank. It's been a long day. So yeah, and show us a little bit about how the logic of those were created. So yeah, thank you.
While they get set up, shall we see how the Twitch chat gets on while we play this?
Yes.
We bring in
Yes, we
shall
should.
We start again?
We definitely should.
And,
We can try. I don't know if I'll get. We can give it a go.
we'll see how they do. So yeah, while you guys switch over, those watching on Twitch, let's play a couple of seconds of given time, see where they get to.
Yeah, this is like Twitch plays, but we play for them.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're
that
gonna
makes
have to wait because we've got that little bit of that Twitch delay.
right.
So we'll wait for it to catch up. So look on the screen. I know you can't read all of the text, but shall we read while they get set up?
Be by the mic.
We'll read while I know you guys can't see all the text. So, first is, the music hits your ears like a truck. As your eyes adjust to the dim light or the hallway, you begin to make out the faces in the sea of bodies that surround you. You recognize no one. You should find your friends. It's not like you can just strike up a conversation with a stranger. Perhaps the kitchen would be a good place to start. So, kitchen, closet, or stairs? Let's see. Everyone's saying stairs.
Okay, because I think they know where the monster.
I think they know where we are.
Actually, is the problem.
Let's see where they get to.
So you climb the stairs. You have now stepped in vomit. Sorry, stream, and now it's on your shoe. Gross. And then you have a choice now between going to the bedroom, the bathroom, the dark corner, or downstairs. The wall light's smashed. I mean, you know, some stuff is kind of wrong here, so your choice.
Let's see where they go. So they got an option here. We're going wait.
Call
First,
it. Call
dark
it.
corner. I think
Dark
I know where
corner.
people are
Yeah,
going.
I think someone knows. Someone knows where to
so
go.
then I think we'll go to the
I mean,
lot,
things are
like-
smashed. There's a loft. Do you want to go? They don't want to go back.
They don't want to go back.
just wanna
No,
go to the loft.
go loft. And then
You
you guys got us take.
Well, I guess we can find out, but they already know it doesn't matter.
It's going back in time.
So you'll never know what I hit.
Oh.
Why can't
Nightmare.
you move? Why can't you? Oh God, bring on Christophe and Steve.
Everyone, fight. Yeah.
You're
done.
all-
there
you're
we
all
go.
dead.
Well done. Thank
Now
you
you
everyone
have to go
for
back
playing
in
given time. Yeah. So if you guys now we have Kristoff and Steve. Everything hurts, guys.
Just so you know, you're all in
Yes, you
tremendous
did this.
pain. Everything is terrible, and now you're outside the party again. What happened?
Someone says, is the Tom voice acted version going to come to Dreams? I will read all of Given Time.
Well, now you've made a promise. Unfortunately, Tom has now
dear.
just made a promise, and he's going to have to do it. So we'll just have the stream where you play this
Yeah.
with everyone.
On some different
So
voices.
exciting.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we're gonna
Oh,
need,
yeah, we're gonna need to-
need to borrow your microphone. We're now de-micing Tom because unfortunately
I've done too much voice
he's
acting.
ruined it. So we're gonna give this over to Steve. Cool. Steve, Kristoff, welcome.
Welcome. Oh.
All right, I think we're going to start with Moon Raiders. Mm-hmm. So if you want to give us a bit of a playthrough.
Sure thing. So I basically made this game because I just wanted to have to see how quick I could make just a spaceship controls, which basically took me 5 minutes.
No, 5 minutes.
So it's just
tough.
Well, you'll see later how simple it is. But it's just using the left stick on the advanced rotator, which all the LVP community will be very familiar. Except now it's in 3D, so that's much more interesting. Oops, someone's shooting at me. But yeah, so it was just doing that, and then a bit like Liam was saying, you do that, and then you start doing something else and something else. I basically was like, I probably need a space station, and apparently Tom Dalloway made a space station for the
So you took Tom Dalloway's space
Exactly,
station
I just remixed it and make it really big. I just cloned tons of things, made a remix. And makes things I think I scale it twice
Saying
bigger.
you made a better space station than Tom Dalloway. These are fun.
No. We both
He's right here.
I know he's right here, but I'm not going.
No, I think that's really cool because it is one of the things that is that really helps me out in Dreams, is being able to take other people's things and sort of add my own touch, and then now you have a spaceship that you can fly.
Yeah, exactly. So that was, by tweaking the control, you're like, okay, let's make some narrow space, and then that's how you realize you need to make the thing neater, and that's where you tweak all the numbers basically.
Yeah.
But that was really handy. And then you had some lights, and then I probably need some enemies, so you basically clone your ship, and exactly like Emei was saying earlier, the bad guys are basically my spaceship, tinted in red.
Yeah.
But with another key, just instead of saying a player, it just say a bad guy or enemy. I can't remember, and that's it. But the thing I wanted to show you is, let's have a look at the control. To be honest. So.
And how long did it take you to do this? Would you say? I don't need exact numbers.
Well, it's like Tom, we do that on our spare time, so it's one hour here, 1 hour there. But I don't know, the controls probably maybe 1 hour in total, just to tweak perfectly everything, and then I don't know. The thing that took most of the time was to make the EI, to dodge, asteroids and stuff.
It's really cool. It go, to follow and dodge planets and everything like that. It's really impressive.
Because that's weird. You want massive asteroids because an empty space is just not fun. So you want things to dodge, etc. So here is the logic. That's all the logic for the microchip for the spaceship. So the first thing you want to, there's the control, the launch. When you press X and the spaceship go down, the player logic is just that, is an advanced rotator. Mm-hmm. This is to inverse a signal, and this is actually for inverted control, because half of the company want inverted control on Y, so I made it. So that's why for those who played on PAX, there's an option to invert control vertically. So that's just what it does. So that's all that, and then there's camera stabilization, and then the different cameras. So when you can choose to be outside or inside the cockpit. Mm-hmm. And another remix I made was to reuse Elibot, which is a character we have in the game, and he had a reactor.
Yeah.
And of course, I needed a reactor, so I just remixed it.
That's really
cool.
And
making my own basically, and tweak some values. And the interesting bit is dodging asteroids. So in Dream we have raycasts, which are basically gadgets that cast rays, for those who are familiar. So basically I have two in the front. Actually, there's only one. It's interesting. But that's the one in the front, but it's basically just in front of you to see if something is just going in your face. And when that one detects something, it triggers the up, down, left, right. And based on that, it basically goes to that microchip, which is just doing the same thing as you piloting. But in the version, this is basically an evolved version, but everybody played. And in that version, I somehow try to have a different approach by basically saying your spaceship AI is looking for empty space instead of like trying to avoid the things it detects.
Yeah.
So everything is up to 1. So basically it say go left, go right, go up and go down at the same time. So basically it goes straight, it does nothing. But when it detects something, that decrease the value on the left, for example. So basically you instantly go right because that's what the math does. It basically move everything. So I'll show you.
Awesome.
I'll show you, and then the rest is just like pressing X to do barrel rolls and all the things. It's just like really really fun. But like that was like really easy to do those bits. The fun bit as well was to work on the cockpit because basically it's just like if you look carefully, it's just like five hexagons and it's just like a few strokes like blinking around, but that just do the trick. And
the same way that Emei was making, the details on her characters, like surface snap plus.
Yeah, exactly. Like surface snap, I use like those are like just 3 strokes to do the screw.
Yeah.
And that's it. I just clone that
feature of the stroke tool to do those. That's
exactly. Cool. I just did that like 3 times. You can notice there's no floor. Ooh. And yeah, it's empty. Wow. And so to show the autopilot, I basically made this afternoon because I finished that last night. I made like a massive level just full of cylinders.
Oh wow! Yeah.
So this is basically a maze of cylinder, and the goal was for my thing to just go through all that without crashing. So bear in mind there are some randomization on the thing because I all want the AI to be a bit like human, so to fail. So. Let's see how it does.
You can do the spaceship thing where you just juke to the side.
So I'm not touching. Well, of course he dies. Let's go in cockpit view, but basically that's what it does. Oh, come on, don't die. Here we go. I'm not touching the pad at all. So it does rotate.
I'll verify there's no magic happening.
It does rotate and dodge and do everything on his own. So it's quite efficient.
That's so cool.
It's quite efficient just doing that. It's just using raycast, like no magic, hard-coded thing. So you can imagine if you double those things, it will be like impossible for him to die. Oh my god, I haven't done that before, but it's just satisfying. I want a screensaver with that.
Yeah, I just really enjoy watching it. That's great. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I'm sure if I play that as a player, I will probably die, but it doesn't.
Yeah, it's like it does a really good job.
Yeah,
except for that first run. Where
so basically on the new the next version of Moon Raiders, there will be all that for all the enemies, so they'll be much harder to kill, and of course, like there will be like guided missiles. And,
I feel like you just announced your sequel, Moon Raiders.
Well, no, actually, like this is supposed to be like a bit of a tutorial. To be honest, it's not. It wasn't meant to be like it's not a full game. Like there's some part will be on a planet, there's some part with other vehicles.
Oh wow!
Oh my god! Yeah, like those guys are basically trying to shoot one of my allies. I'm just gonna kill you guys. No, that guy is just in front of me. There we go.
Nice.
Goodbye. Well, I can do that for hours, but someone is shooting at me.
Yeah, it looks amazing, and that was the first time I saw how the AI worked, and that's just like super cool. And it makes a lot of sense again when you're like, okay, well, to rotate, it detects this one thing, it rotates to the side, like. It really
it's just like somehow you realize how you could make things work, and you're like, oh, let's try, and it does work, and that's somehow like super satisfying.
Yeah, that's what I love about these. Like, I feel like I learned something new, like every time I see you guys like dig into the logic behind them. And that's how I think Steve actually will start by playing Hammer Time. Hammer Time is like a really big crowd favorite when we show these because of the competitive nature that it brings out in everyone, especially here in the studio. So if we want to get another controller over here.
Oh yeah, oh my god.
Oh, it's over there. Tom's grabbing it.
Who wants to play against?
Well, I mean, no, you have to play the creator, so.
Yeah.
Damn it. I'm gonna lose.
Yeah, this was
We sit up to the microphone a little bit.
Okay. Coming forward.
We're distracting him with the microphone so that you can win, just so you know. Go.
So this was made quite a while ago. It was kind of the for first attempt at making a mini game using actual scores and being versus. So should we start? Just play through.
Yeah,
do that.
just give it a playthrough, and then we'll talk a little bit more about how you did it.
Yeah.
I think the little character is so sweet.
Yeah, it's only took me probably half an hour to actually make it. It's
Wow.
quite simple.
Really?
Yeah, the animation is. It's kind of the hammer was made on its own, and then stamped inside a biped. So I'll get some points I'm going to lose.
See, we're
Yeah.
just distracting with the talking, distracting.
I know.
with the talking.
Talk, Steve. Talk. Say
Yeah,
something. Say something.
Tell us more things, Steve.
How about like puppet here, puppet there.
Gonna win.
And then to make the whole experience.
God,
Yeah,
of course
so
you
it's
win.
pretty much just 2 keyframes on the animation and stamped inside the biped moving around, and the rest of it's kind of logic around it to get the other objects to interact with it. So
How long did it take you to complete the game?
to make the whole thing was, I think it's like 2 weekends.
That's pretty amazing.
I kind of made a character and thought I just try to make, I made the mechanics of like just seeing what's actually fun. Like just making individual things, like just hitting things around, smashing things was fun.
And everything else, did you pretty much sculpt from scratch, or were you using stuff in the Dreamiverse?
It's kind of combined. See those windows there? They're kind of made by Kristoff.
Oh.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's from my Parisians.
Yeah, I think I like edited them slightly, like took some of the things out, but it's like pretty much that, and then the walls and obviously the floor and stuff I just made in the
I know,
puzzle
talk
pieces
Steve.
there.
Sorry, I feel like we're really running a diversion here, Christoph and I, so apologies.
I
love
never
this
win. I
level.
never win that stage. It just blew my mind how awesome it is. It's so Alice in Wonderland. I love it.
I know. I like, and it's just super fun. I always like start with like to try to get the first hit in like right off the get-go, which only ever works once, and then people figure it out. But I will never forget the first day that I saw this in the office, because it was mostly just from the noise of people shouting at each other and like getting super competitive.
Yes,
Of course you win.
I won at my own game.
Yeah.
It's fine. We tried to distract him, but he.
Final result.
no,
You're a
it's
winner.
okay,
Of course
so-
you are.
Of course. Yay!
So one thing I did as well at the end, because we have the ability to reset levels, I kind of linked this to end the game, or I kind of linked this button, which just takes the logic output off it to actually reset the level. And I just made my own buttons, which kind of works. So if you just press like the replay, it will just reset the level again to the start.
Oh, that's
Sweet.
awesome. Cool. Show us how it's made.
Okay, so
Okay, fine. If we have to.
shall I show you? I don't know which. Should I show you just the end section, or should I just show you actually in edit mode what it actually looks like?
Yeah, that would be great. This was a real like aha
'Cause,
moment for me.
Yeah, because each you have a look. It's probably kind of
Be ready, people.
yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously there's like invisible barriers here.
Okay.
Maybe I should just delete them so I can actually see what I'm doing.
Whoa. But I think
But yeah, you can
what
see.
struck me about this was all one level. I never really thought of it like that because I'm so used to seeing it like, oh, here's the first one, here's the second one. And I always thought of it as a transition to like another dream that you were, and it's not. It's all just built in one step.
Yeah, it's just simpler to get it to work in one, and you get nice transitions from it, just snappy. So multiplayer edit mode, remote control. Yeah, it's just
Let me turn off.
it should be okay. Yeah, but it's trying to each mini game is pretty much the first one. If you have a look, I was kind of using power. So if I turn the power on, obviously that object becomes powered on, which means if you turn preview, yeah, that object's on. So pretty much the first mini game, everything just gets powered on, which means that mini game's kind of active, and then obviously the scoring works with that one. So as soon as that one's done, I pretty much have destroyers. I destroy everything and clean up that mini game, then trigger the UI and like proceed to the next round, which will be when you have the football ones, which is obviously there. So you have obviously these ones are powered on, then the final one you see all this.
Yeah,
so
right. And
it's kind of
above it.
yeah, so it's kind of efficient. When it's powered off, it's actually not running any of the gadgets at all. so it's actually cheaper. And as you go to the next one, because this one's actually quite a lot of pieces, the other ones are cleaned up anyway, so it just makes it more efficient and run better on the frame rate. So shall I actually show you how this one works?
Yes, definitely. Because I thought this was so cool when you first showed me, and I went ahead and like obviously I haven't made anything nearly as complex as you have, but using the keyframe to make like platforms fall has now been added to my repertoire.
So yeah, this one I kind of I've experimented with keyframes, just a quick test. So let's make it so it's all visible. Yeah. So this is the object when the hammer hits. If you can see there, it's got objects in there which it spawns out. So it detects it's hit this object, and as soon as it hits it, it kind of spawns out this object, which I'll just show you what it does. It kind of just goes along.
Oh, cool.
And then the pieces fall for a certain amount of time and then just come back again. So I just so it's pretty simple, the actual logic on each piece, and it's quite modular. Each piece was pretty much just it's just the same piece and then just tinted slightly different colors or tones of the
See
same
a theme
color.
with this stream. Just tint your things slightly different. Right.
So the way I do it is it's just a keyframe which sets the initial position. And it is made permanent, so as soon as it only activates this for when it's actually on, it's in that position, but as soon as it's not permanent, it means that you can move it and it'll start from that position.
And you turn the thing physical.
Yeah,
That's
so
why it explodes with the force.
This wire here, this I think it's a separate wire, or it could be the same wire. I can't remember. I made this so long ago. Let's move this up. It's falling down. There. Yeah, so the key here detects a zone, which is here, which is on this object. It's got some other gadgets, but it's not really. They kind of just act to set the duration and a certain amount of conditions to make sure if it goes off the edge of one of these, it stops working again and disappears. So it's that combined with the force applier, which applies a force to any objects. You can specify it as well as labels here. So it ignores the character, so when you do it, you don't hit the other character away, but it'll act on all the, well, I kind of set it to all the
Everything
objects.
else,
Anything
yeah.
pretty much here that's movable, it will make move. So this makes it the object movable and stops moving from its current keyframe position, and then the force applier will make those objects.
And after 2 seconds,
Yeah.
and
And then after the,
yeah.
which I'm using, yeah, I'll show you. Yeah, just using these gadgets, which the signal manipulator. I'm just using the,
It's 5 seconds.
yeah, I'm just using the smooth fall, which means that when there's no, when there
carries
is a
on the
signal,
signal,
yeah, when
yeah.
there is a signal, and then as soon as there's no signal, it kind of goes back to being at 0, depending on the time. So if I set it at like 10, it'll turn on and then take 10 seconds to go
Right.
to 0 again.
That's so cool.
And that's pretty much it. It's very simple, which is why I kind of wanted to make something in this actual minigame that was very simple. Even the characters very simple to make. I just wanted to make a load of kind of find out what's fun, keep it simple, and get it done as fast as possible. So it's quite fun getting into flow and making something
Yeah.
really quickly.
Yeah, it's really awesome. So I think we're like getting close to time for our live stream, but it's really, because we have you guys here, I think it'd be nice if there's some questions. Tom has been on the stream the whole time, so.
Someone really wants to know if you've placed all the puzzle pieces by hand.
Oh, yes. The question was, did Steve place all the puzzle pieces by hand?
There's a grid.
No, yeah, it's about using the grid. I think I made this, which you see that they're slightly, obviously, they're kind of, it's just one piece and then it's like orientated around, and they all match up perfectly on grid. So I think it's like you get this one.
Yeah. Someone
And then
also,
then I pretty much made a tiled piece, and then obviously I duplicated the tiled piece along, then I duplicated that along, so it only
Yeah.
took a few seconds to make all of those.
yeah, someone also asked if about online multiplayer, and while we won't have it at launch, that is actually something that we have planned to follow. So you will be able to make online multiplayer games in Dreams, and which is very exciting. So let's see what else. Oh, someone's asking, how do you make the ball so bouncy, and can everything else be made just as bouncy?
Yeah, so I'll show you now. It's, let's make a spheres.
Which I think is a good time to talk, you know, if you can add to talk just maybe a little bit about how physics in Dreams works. I think that would help people. So we haven't really shown that too much.
By default, it does that. So we have the option here. Get it up. Yeah. So squashiness, which allows the object to be deformed and kind of creates a kind of bouncy effect.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on how much you put. See. So that's kind of the setting I actually use. Although you could just use bounciness and keep it kind of rigid. So, but I wanted to just have a kind of more playful look to it and feel to it. Kind of makes it more enjoyable when you actually hit it.
Cool. And you can add gravity and
so
take away gravity and
and change density, and obviously the density if you make it too heavy, it's just going to hit the other players away. So you have to just like tweak it to get it how you want.
Yeah, really cool.
Someone was asking about Steve's background before, and it's interesting because these guys actually come from
so
LBP community, don't they?
Yeah, for those of you who don't know Steve Big Guns, and Kristoff, they did come from the LBP community. So they were creating things in LBP and then came to join the team at Media Molecule. So, I mean, that's a short version. But Steve, if you want to talk a little bit more about like grading and how you became part of MM.
I've previously, I started making stuff at home when I tore most of my tendons doing stuff in the gym. So it gave me a lot of free time. And then I got an email from Sony to work I was at, I think it was initially Tarsier and then Sumo Digital.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then, so I started working there, and then I applied here around, was it almost 4 years ago? Yeah. And then started working here. So.
What was your background before then?
It's mostly just doing fitness instructing. So.
That's so cool.
Something completely different, but actually going in and making stuff at home. I was kind of considering going into making games anyway. Because it's something when you actually do it, you actually realise it's more enjoyable and more rewarding than any other job. It's not just doing the same thing. You feel like you've achieved something at the end of the day, rather than you've just done a job.
Yeah,
which is why I like it.
How about you, Kristoff? What was your background before?
Well, it's a bit similar thing. It's like a proper 180, change from your life. Well, first I was in France, and I actually, for some weird reason, never came to the UK before. Like all French kid, come to the UK as with school and do like lots of trips. And I didn't. And that was really funny. Like I was actually making level for LBP1. I mean, just like you. And I think that was like SPAF was running like the MM community thing, and every week or every month, I can't remember. Like there was like it was saying like, oh, submit your things, and well, I was like, well, maybe I should send my pinball and send my Maya maze. I can't remember. Like I think that was a Maya inspired thing. And well, I used to be an art director in advertising, so I had like an art background and like lots of positioning thing in space to be pretty and to breathe and to be like easy to understand. And I was also making some game on Flash back in the days, running like a small community for my things. So yeah, one day I had like a message from like a guy working on MM saying like, yeah, we really like your levels. Do you want to come and work with us? Blah blah blah.
That's so cool.
Probably a spam.
Nice.
I honestly didn't believe at all when the thing was. I was like, it's probably someone who wants to be friends, and I don't understand. I don't know you. And the name of the pseudo wasn't even part of MM. Like, it was like, of course, there was an avatar. And then the next week there was like, well, Karim, our art director, really like your level, and Mark think your level are funny, and there's no bug in it, and we really want to meet you. And I was like, oh, well, maybe that's real. Maybe that's real. But I never read email on PS3, so yeah. I just sent my CV, and the week later I was on the Eurostar, like coming for a
That is
test.
so cool.
That was great.
So now I think you should do a rematch against Steve in Hammer Time.
Oh
as we
no,
close
I
out this
can't
stream for
win.
this
I
week.
can't. I cannot win the master.
And in fact, I think we want to do more streams like this where we invited people on to like show all the cool stuff that they've been making in Dreams. So I think it's very likely that we'll do another one of those again in a few weeks. Maybe 2. I don't
Take
know.
that.
We need to figure out the next one. Things are busy. But yeah, and are there any more questions that would be great for these two so that we can
Do I have
distract
to
them
smash
while
my
they...
color?
Yeah, you have to smash the opposing colour.
Muscly men.
No, the
Oh,
opposing
yeah.
color or my blue?
Someone's asking if you can beat Emei's muscly men in her game. So, like, maybe we'll just have to make a Steve character and throw him in. I know, like, we're now adding things to Emei's game, but she's giving the thumbs up, so I think
I win! Make a screenshot, everyone.
there's still 2 more.
No, that's it.
That
That's
kid
it.
just throw the controller down and walk
I
out of
can't
this
believe
stream.
you win.
I mean, he has an advantage, which
No, he has an advantage
cheat
of
code.
nothing. Look. Oh, for fuck's! I can't believe.
yeah.
This is not happening.
Well,
Steve.
it is. I mean,
No! Oh, God damn it! Of course, they're gonna lose.
don't give up so early.
Stop the
There's
stream
still-
now! Stop the stream!
No,
Oh no!
keep it going. Okay,
Nah, shockwave. I cannot.
Why not?
Win.
No.
There we go. I died as well.
Well, see,
1-1.
I'm really rooting for you.
Oh, this is.
I mean, I'm not betting on you, but I'm rooting for you.
Christ. Oh, I died
Oh
again.
wow,
I
that
can't
was.
believe.
Yeah, I mean, hope is diminishing, isn't it?
Be focused now.
Oh no.
All right.
Well,
I got a screenshot. Where you say winner.
you won. Yeah, you have that one thing to hold on to.
Well, you
so-
and Steve.
Yeah, well, thank you everybody for joining us. We really want to bring you more of this kind of stuff where we show you a bit more how everybody has made like all this crazy cool stuff behind the scenes. We're still
I'm smashing.
on track to bring you a beta later this year. We're really excited about it, and I hope this inspires you to make some really awesome, cool stuff. We'd love to show you some of the ways we use the tools so that you'll get an idea of how you might use the tools when you have dreams. So thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it, and tune in for the next stream. And
Bye
that-
bye.
Say goodbye, everyone. Bye. Thanks to all of our stream people.